New frontline, huh? Well, frontlines aren't really my thing, but let's give it a whack. Now, Ash here is the first new character I didn't go ahead and try out on the PTS. I waited and tried her out on live instead. Like I said, I'm not really a frontline kind of guy. I used to like them a lot, but I felt like most of the time I was on the point alone, with my teammates fighting somewhere else, getting themselves picked off, and in turn I was getting melted because I was all alone, where I was supposed to be. That, or my healer wasn't healing me. That was something that happened a lot back when Inara was released and I was trying her out. So today, my healer main friend Toasty offered to play with me while I tried her out, and it was a big help. Thanks, man. I was pretty surprised with how much I ended up enjoying her. As far as playstyle goes, she plays much differently than the other tanks. Her alt line where she says, is really true to her character because this girl is a fighter. Her whole kit basically screams that. In case you don't know what she does, her primary is a projectile that goes out to medium range and explodes, dealing 400 damage, well up to 400 damage. It is blast, which is good. Hi-Rez has been making some strides to get us more blast characters to balance out with all the direct characters we already have. Her right click makes her next primary attack fire out a big knockback that deals 300 damage. This knocks back pretty far, and if you already have some momentum going from some kind of movement ability, then you can be propelled into space. I was propelled so far on Jaguar Falls, all the way from basically the point to out into the water. It was crazy. Her F is a dash that can go super far, and when it hits, it deals 800 damage and knocks people back. Her Q is a small barrier. It has like 5,000 health, just like Barracks does, and it moves forward on its own. Probably her weakest skill in my opinion. Her alt makes you jump up and put a flag down, making a zone that nullifies all damage you receive as long as you're standing in it. No CC immunity though, so you can be knocked out of it. As for legendaries, there's one that gives you 90% damage reduction and CC immunity while dashing, one that makes your barrier move slower and gives it 3,000 more health, and one that makes your alt stun affected enemies for 2 seconds on impact and grants allies within 100 feet 20% increased damage for 3 seconds. So this character is really somebody who likes to fight anybody who gets on her point. When you're playing her, you're either knocking people off of your point or killing them if they want to be stubborn about it. I love how explosive she feels. No pun intended. Well, maybe intended, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about our weaknesses. The biggest one to me is the barrier. It's smaller than Barracks and just as weak, so it isn't going to stay up for very long. It's not really something they really need Wrecker for either, unless you get the legendary for it. Since it's small, it doesn't really protect against very much. On maps with high ground, it's basically useless, and that's a lot of maps. I think it needs to be a bit higher and maybe even curved towards the top to really be good. That feels like her only real weakness to me, at least when it comes to weaknesses that are specific to her. She does of course have all the weaknesses other tanks have, slow and easy to hit, and she of course gets messed up by BK and Drogos. Some people have been saying that she's pretty good against Drogos because she can hit him mid-air and her alt counters his, but let's be real. He can fly out of your range on most maps and rain down heavy damage onto you. He can also use his ult, knowing you're going to use yours, and when you pop that flag down, he can fly right past you and punch your healer. Drogos can then fly off, leaving your ult with no value, while his got both a high impact kill and made you waste your ult. As for BK, he can basically do the same thing while also stunning you, so you can just get poppy bombed out of your ult afterwards. Now you can probably tell without me saying it that I don't really think she's OP at all. There are plenty of ways to deal with her despite how well-rounded of a character she is. I do see her being a favorite in the community though. I'd be really surprised if we end up seeing her with a low pick rate once the buzz around her dies down a bit. Now there is another thing about her, and that's that her release was pretty much the nail in the coffin for Fernando. Fernando is basically in the same place as Maeve right now. Not exactly a bad character per se, but a character that is outclassed greatly by the rest of the characters in their role. Fernando was already on the decline before, but now it's like they killed him without even nerfing him. Ashe does a much better job at defending the point than he does, and her ult makes her unkillable just like his does. But instead, it's complete damage immunity and not just damage immunity at 1500 health like Fernando has. Now, Fernando's ult does affect nearby teammates, but that wasn't really something that kept him viable before, so it's definitely not going to do it now. Be aware that I'm mainly talking about higher levels of play here. I'm not saying don't play Fernando if you don't like him, have at it, but I think all of you out there who like Fernando can agree that Hi-Rez needs to give him some serious love now more than ever. To wrap this video up, I say get out there and give her a try if you haven't already. Even if you're not a tank person like me, you might end up really liking her. She seems to have that effect on people. And that's pretty much it, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. I very much appreciate it, and I'm going to see you guys later. Bye!